I look at Facebook sometimes. I try not to look at it too much, but recently somebody posted, if you had $1 million, what's your dream? All the comments, travel, travel, travel. And it's like, guys,
just do it.
I wrote a book about this a long time ago. You don't need $1 million to travel. Come on. And that's the rule rather than the exception. The awesome $250 apartment. Stay in Bangkok for a month. Stay in this place. Stay in that place for a month. Find out where local people are living, where they're eating, what the rents are, and you don't need the middleman experience. You find a nice person who's sure they'll charge you $25 more than a Thai person, but it's still $275 a month for a furnished apartment. Don't quote me on those prices because I haven't been there recently, but yeah, I paid $100 a month, and I think I've told you about this as well. I'd go down to the corner restaurant. They knew I couldn't read very much, so they'd drag me in the kitchen. I'd point about what I would want to eat. I had great Thai food for under $1 every evening.
Oh my God, it's so crazy when you do the price and you're like, it was under $1.
You're figuring things out. You figured out a few words of a language. You figured out how to haggle. You figured out how homes are built. You've talked to a dude who has a job similar to you, but it's different in its own way.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're a fuller person, and you're bringing that back home. I think a lot of what you discover when you travel, especially outside of the developed world, is you feel your middle classness, and all of a sudden you realize that people don't live with all the assumptions that you take for granted. And then suddenly it's like, oh, and it's...
It really is a wake-up call.
Yeah, and if you saw people living like that in Arkansas, you think, oh, those poor hillbillies. But in another country, it's like you realize that every village in this province, has houses like this. Yeah. And so if you come to it from a perspective of pity or, oh, these poor people, we need to bring them television sets, it's like, well, wait a second, how do they define their happiness? What we don't ask as often is, well, what do you want? We assume that they're poor because they don't have the same crap that we have, when in fact, what's their week like? Are they more connected to religious traditions, or maybe they find more meaning in family than we have in this day and age? And so I guess that's another travel principle, is that stay long enough to ask questions. And also when life is outside at the village level or the city level, where nobody's inside watching their TV because they don't have air conditioning, it's not comfortable, it's small, it's concrete, there's not ventilation, so you're outside, you have a plastic stool. Like, how many times in Asia have you sat on a plastic stool?
Little plastic ones up to your ankle pretty much.
We're both tall, sorry. Yeah. Knees are up by our ankles.
Yeah, you're sitting like, it's almost squatting.
And then just this super cold beer, and it's just like, this is an amazing moment. I'm having beer with Chinese people or Thai people.
Yeah, you look around, you step back for a second, you're like, what the fuck?
This is the language of beer, and they're tickled because there's some lanky American guy having a beer with them.
They're like, look, he thinks he's human. Have you been to New Zealand?
I have, yeah.
Oh, so jealous.
I've been there twice, actually.
North or south?
Both.
Oh.
When I went around the world with no luggage, I went to the South Island in Queenstown.
How long did it take you to go around the world with no luggage?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. No luggage. Just
no
fill
luggage.
up your fucking...
No, I want to do it again. You should try it sometime.
I should try it.
Yeah.
It must be so free to get on a plane and just be like... You didn't even have a backpack.
Didn't have a backpack. No bags at all. Just a vest with some stuff in it.
Wow.
And then what I was wearing.
You know what I liked about travel? The how it forces you to overcome problems. Like that. I need a sweater. I don't have one. I don't have a bag to put it in.
Right.
What do I do? And you just figure it out.
Yeah. And I think we overthink problems. We live in this convenience age. We have an app that solves every problem. It's like, oh, well, what if, you're traveling in the summer? What if you go to New Zealand, it's cold? Well, what if your friend Dan doesn't live there? Well, then I'll buy a sweater.
Yeah, exactly.
It's at a thrift store. It cost me $30, and I just spent $30, which is something that in New York would be 4 beers or something. And now I'm warm, and I'm in New Zealand, and I'm on a zip line, and I'm on a jet boat, and I'm hiking through the wilderness. But like that mindset has seeped into other parts of my life, where it's just like, I'm not going to worry about every eventuality, even on a weekend road trip, because the world is full of solutions. On my deathbed, there was a period of travel between 99 and 2001 when I was my first deep vagabonding trip. It was right before I wrote Vagabonding. You look at pictures from that age, and I just look stupid. I look like a dork. But on my deathbed, probably 35% of all of my memories are going to be from that time when I looked like a dork, because I just didn't care. It's like, I need pants. Okay, they're a little bit high water. I'm in the Himalayas. I'm in this mind blowing place.
Yeah, you're not trying to win people over with fashion.
And we've talked before about how time slows down when you travel, where it's just like you're trying to remember everything that happened in the last week, and it's like, that was a week? I did that much? That was a week? So
it really does. A few months seems like a fucking 2 years.
And I think that's part of the thing. When you can spend a morning trying to find flip-flops that spend you, and that fit you, and you've still spent your time in a more interesting way.
Oh yeah, you got some low clock on the way, and you ate something, see some cool things,
and you've gone out to solve problems in another part of the world. It's like an adventure. It's part of the mystery. You're solving a mystery. It's great.
Dude, isn't it interesting that the most common word people use to describe when they've been somewhere is amazing? I hear that over and over again. How is this? Oh, it's amazing, and it's just like. They just keep using that word, and I think it's apt where it's like it amazes you,
right? Yeah, and that's one of the big bonuses of travel. And I think with that word amazement, I'm a big fan of accidentally being amazed.
What do you mean?
Well, you can read about Machu Picchu or the Eiffel Tower, go there and be amazed, and I can vouch for both those places. Machu Picchu and Eiffel Tower are both. You feel amazed in their presence, but then there's the amazement that comes with Moche pyramids. Holy shit, this is amazing. Basically, it's finding things by accident and stumbling into a kind of amazement that you hadn't expected. That part of your amazement was that it was accidental, that you didn't plan on having seen this, that you've seen something that's like, how in the world did I not know this existed? Another thing that people say, I feel like I'm in a movie. Like, I remember climbing a temple in Pagan, the sun was going down, and it's like, this feels like a made-up environment, like I'm in a movie. And it's like, well, actually, Tatooine in Star Wars is actually named after Tatooine in Tunisia, right? So, actually, movies got their inspiration from real places, and it's the reason we feel like they're in movies is they're places that are more amazing than movies. And Pagan was great. I was there during the rainy season, so there weren't that many. I sort of had the place to myself. I had a bicycle. I would bicycle from temple to temple. It was great.
Yeah, we had I'm just remembering now. It was with these Canadian girls, and we were like trying to see a sunset somewhere, and they're repairing a lot of them because of earthquakes, and it was like closed. Like, oh fuck! And some lady's like, "Come see sunset," and we just like followed her down this long tunnel outside to this X one. She found some steps that she knew about, these weird like Jesus level human steps, and then just like crouch down and get up there, and then like boom, there's a sunset coming. Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I had several moments in Myanmar where it's just like I just need to savor this, like I need to be completely present because this is
no taking pictures of this
so much more amazing than I ever dreamed of. And sometimes it's as easy as like a ferry ride across a wide river mouth at midnight and all the stars are out,
exactly. Yes, absolutely.
And you're taking a form of transportation that we no longer need.
Ferries aren't taken much, but Indonesia, that's normal.
Yeah, totally, yeah. And then suddenly you're on a deck of a ferry in Indonesia, and there's all these families eating their dinner and making a little space and giving you food, and the stars are out, and you can smell the sea and the land, and it all
comes together.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to like I want to figure out how to capture on film that feeling of like when you come over the hill of whatever you're going to see, and then there it is unfolding in front of you. The feeling that like, I hiked 2 hours to get here, or I took a 12-hour bus to get here. That feeling of like accomplishment and wonder. I don't know how to capture that on screen because on screen it's just like, look at this place.
Well, yeah, I don't know. You need to make the viewer sit on a bus for 12 hours.
Yeah, exactly. When they're cranking the AC and you're like, why are we all freezing to death?
Or when you're crammed into the chicken bus, I think that's why there's no substitute for travel, because there's this push-pull, that it's not just a consumer experience, that you have to suffer the 12-hour bus ride to see the amazing Himalayan mountain, that you have to stay up all night to watch the sunrise and hike into the jungle. Yeah. And you have to learn a few phrases and haggle and find flip-flops that are 2 sizes too small, which I did a lot. I have size 13, so I was always hanging off flip-flops.
You're like, good enough. 11's good. You're like, it was not good. It'll stretch. The soles don't stretch.
Right.
What are you talking about?
I just had
dirty
my
soles.
Toes are fine. Just the heel, the heel was hanging off the flip-flops. No, I just it's a gallery of dorkiness, the stuff that I wore. But I regret none of it. I had so many of those amazing moments.
Yeah. because I felt like I found it.
Right, yeah.
You know, as opposed to someone telling you, yeah, go there for sure.
And I think that's important to keep as an option, because Yelp will always be helpful. There's so many shits. Digital maps, which we just looked at in addition to the paper map here, will always be useful. But there's just something so wonderful about taking out the paper map and turning the pages and saying, oh my God, what's this? You know, it's not in the search zone on your phone, but it's like, what the hell's that? Why is there a town called, you know, Dingleberry in Ireland? And so it's the same thing, is that you go, and even if you don't discover it by accident, if you just walk into somebody and say, what's good food around here? It's like, oh, go up the street to the pub. You know, they just got such and such. And then it's so much more rewarding.
So much more rewarding
than crowdsourcing things. And you just don't need it. You just don't need to crowdsource the thing. You'll get to that restaurant maybe 13 minutes earlier than if you had just wandered around, asked somebody where the good food is.
And then maybe you come across the same restaurant, maybe you don't. But either way, this one's good. You don't feel like you're missing out on something. Like, that guy over there told me to go to this place. Let's go to that place.
Yeah.
That's the new... I don't know. I didn't know about it an hour ago, and now that's all I want to do is go to this place I got a recommendation for.
And he lives here. I just watched a Jaron Lanier video on YouTube. He's this tech guy. And he said that, you know, there's increased instances of depression with young people these days, you know, tied to your smartphone. He was arguing about getting rid of your smartphone. And he said, to know yourself, you have to, and it seems like an extreme argument, but it isn't. Quit your smartphone for 6 months and see who you are. Travel the world. See who you are. You know, I'm beholden to my smartphone too, but I think younger people have never not been beholden to the smartphone. So much of their identity and aspiration and anxiety is filtered through the smartphone, and it doesn't need to be.
Right,
You're going to be arriving to everything 13 minutes later, and instead of the bucket list thing that was aggregated from the article, from your research and your trip, suddenly you're on this ferry ride, and it's amazing. Or you're in this valley that you learned about the day before, and it's blowing your mind, and it's not a consumer experience. You aren't trying to match it to what you saw on your phone. You're just in this place, and it's full of temples or giant trees or a village where people live in a completely different way, and then it's yours. You know, that it's not, it hasn't been given to you by a machine. It's something that you found.
You discovered it.
Yeah. And of course you didn't really discover it. But in this 21st century way, you're the person who found that place, and it belongs to you in that personal way, in a way that your Yelp optimized recommendations never would.
Yeah, it really is amazing. It really is amazing. Just getting lost and getting fucking free of it.
Man, you know, I want to do some slow Africa too, because I had such a great winter there last year. I was in Hawaii, which I loved. I really enjoyed Hawaii this winter, but the winter before I was in South Africa, Namibia, and Mozambique, and couldn't say enough good things about those places. So I would love to get to like Zambia and Botswana and other parts of Africa and slowly just experience more parts of. This is a tough question, Ari, because I'd love to go back to Southeast Asia where I've already spent a ton of time.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is you want to go back. He's like, I'm not done there. There's more to Cambodia I want to see. There's more to, like, you know, I didn't see any Laos.
Yeah,
I want to like.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I feel comfortable. I went to Thailand in 2010 after not having been there for 7 years, and immediately just slid back in. Suddenly I was
Thailand is the jumping off ground for Southeast Asia.
Oh, it's a great jumping off place. Yeah.
It's foreign without being like dangerous type foreign. It's just like, okay, there's stuff here I can get used to,
and then slowly move your way to surrounding places. So I would love to do a little Asia reunion at some point, and then spend some more serious ground time in Africa. And if I do, I'll probably start by picking up some more of these southern countries, just because I loved that part of the continent so much. Mm-hmm. But I should just let my nuts hang a little bit and go to these West African countries that I don't know as much about.
Because just get your shots.
How complicated? I mean, it's problem solving, right? You just go there, and if there's political warnings out, then we'll solve that. If there's mosquitoes carrying diseases, then we'll find a way to get them off. So I think maybe I'm mustering my courage to do West Africa, and probably there'll be nothing to have been afraid about.
We're talking about all these amazing stuff, and you're like, oh, but I also want to do that, and I also want to do that. And then there's so many people stuck in this little block. Yeah. Just in America. And it's tiny compared to like all the places you can go. And
the things, like the spectrum of knowledge and fear that they have about the rest of this giant world is so pinched and narrow and incorrect. Yeah. You know, that there's just so, and this is it. Americans have a complicated relationship with fun, but and And of course, travel can be educational in addition to fun. But there's just so much out there.
There's so much out there.
From that sit on a plastic bucket and have a beer with a Chinese dude to take a ferry. Just there's these simple experiences that will make you so grateful and excited for having done that.
Yeah, exactly.